The recruitment hall of the Galactic Defense Coalition smelled like ozone and arrogance. Captain Zarachin stood at parade rest while 300 alien cadets pretended not to stare at her. She was used to it by now. Humans were the new kids on the block, the fresh meat, the species that had barely crawled out of their own solar system before stumbling into a universe that had been running just fine without them for millennia. Another monkey, someone muttered in Vorian, the common tongue. Zara's translator implant caught it instantly. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, just kept her eyes forward like a good little soldier. Instructor Valak strode to the center of the arena, his 4 arms folded across his chest in what passed for authority among the Crit species. He was built like a boulder that had learned to walk, all muscle and rocky exoskeleton, with eyes that glowed the color of burning copper. "Today you will learn humility," Valak announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You will learn that rank means nothing, that reputation means nothing, that the only truth in combat is victory or death." Zara suppressed a yawn. She'd heard this speech before. Different instructor, same dramatic flair. The Coalition loved its theater. Cadet Vex front and center. The crowd parted like water around a shark. Vex was a Talaxan, one of the warrior breeds that had conquered half the Andromeda sector before the Coalition convinced them that cooperation was more profitable than war. He stood 8 feet tall, his scaled hide rippling with bio-enhanced muscle, each of his 6 limbs ending in claws that could shred through ship armor. His species didn't smile, but the way his mandibles clicked together suggested amusement. Cadet Chun joined him. The silence that followed was absolute. Then someone laughed. Then another. Within seconds, the entire hall was roaring with laughter, so loud it hurt Zara's ears. She walked forward anyway, her boots clicking against the polished floor with metronomic precision. 5'6" of disappointment in a species that had expected her to be more impressive. She'd left her power armor in her locker. Regulations said hand-to-hand combat meant exactly that. No enhancements, no weapons, just flesh and bone, and whatever you'd learned before you got here. Vex looked down at her the way a mountain looks at a pebble. "This is the joke, yes? The human is a joke. The human is your opponent," Valak corrected, though his voice carried its own thread of amusement. "First blood wins. Lethal force is prohibited. Medical teams are standing by. Begin when ready." Vex stretched, each of his limbs extending to their full length, showing off, making it clear that he had reach, mass, and evolutionary advantages that Zara couldn't match in 1,000 years. "I will try to be gentle, little mammal. Your bones look very soft." Zara finally allowed herself to smile. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a smile her drill instructor back on Earth used to wear right before he made everyone's life absolutely miserable. "That's sweet of you. I'll try to make this quick." The laughter returned, louder this time. Even Valak's rocky face cracked into something resembling a grin. Vex moved first, because of course he did. Speed and aggression, the hallmarks of Talaxan combat doctrine. His upper arm swept in from both sides, intending to grab her shoulders and lift her off the ground. A simple opening that would let him establish dominance and control the flow of the fight. Zara dropped into a crouch, so fast she seemed to teleport. The claws whistled over her head, disturbing her hair but finding only empty air. She pivoted on her left foot, drove her right heel into the joint of Vex's lower left knee, and rolled backward before he could process what had happened. The Talaxan stumbled. Not much. Just enough to show that the invincible warrior could be touched. The laughter died like someone had flipped a switch. Vex's mandibles stopped clicking. His eyes narrowed to slits. "Lucky." "Sure," Zara agreed. "Let's go with that." He came at her again, this time with actual intent. All 6 limbs working in concert, a whirlwind of scales and claws that could dismantle a combat drone in seconds. The crowd pressed closer, eager to see the human get shredded. Zara moved like water, like smoke, like something that shouldn't be possible for a species without natural armor or redundant limbs. She slipped between strikes that should have connected, redirected blows that should have crushed her, used Vex's own momentum against him in ways that made the physics professors in the audience start muttering about leverage and mass distribution. She didn't attack. Not yet, just offended, evaded, made him work for every inch of ground. Let him get frustrated. Let him get sloppy. Stand still. Vex roared, his composure cracking like old paint. Make me! Zara shot back, and it was that smile again. He lunged with all 6 arms extended, trying to simply overwhelm her with reach and power. It was a mistake. Zara had been waiting for him to overcommit. She ducked under the grasping claws, stepped inside his guard where those long limbs became a hindrance rather than advantage, and drove her palm into the soft tissue under his jaw with surgical precision. Vex's head snapped back. His eyes went unfocused. He staggered, trying to recover, but Zara was already moving. She hooked her leg behind his, shoved against his chest, and used basic physics to send 300 pounds of apex predator crashing to mat like a falling tree. She was on him before he could rise, her knee on his chest, her hand wrapped around one of his mandibles in a grip that promised pain if he moved wrong. "Yield," she said quietly. Vex stared up at her, his copper eyes wide with something between shock and rage. "How?" "I asked you to yield." For a long moment, nothing happened. The entire hall held its breath. Talaxans didn't yield. Their culture, their biology, their entire evolutionary history screamed against the concept of surrender. They fought until they won, or until they couldn't fight anymore. But Vex was smart enough to recognize reality. "I yield." Zara released him immediately, stepping back and offering her hand. Vex stared at it like she just offered him a live grenade. Then, slowly, he reached up and let her help him to his feet. The crowd lost its collective mind. Instructor Valak waited for the noise to die down, which took longer than Zara expected. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a note of something new. Respect, maybe, or at least the absence of mockery. "Can you explain what happened here, Cadet Chin?" Zara shrugged. "Earth is a high-gravity world compared to most coalition planets. We're shorter and denser because we had to be. Our species didn't have claws or natural armor, so we developed tools, weapons, tactics. We learned to fight things bigger and stronger than us because everything on our planet was bigger and stronger than us. Evolution makes you adapt or die, and we adapted. And the technique? Valak pressed. Mixed martial arts. Judo. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Krav Maga. Wing Chun. Muay Thai. Boxing. Wrestling. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years, and we've gotten really, really good at it. We cataloged everything that works and threw away everything that doesn't. What you just saw wasn't luck. It was 10,000 years of accumulated knowledge about how to break things that don't want to be broken. Vex rubbed his jaw, his pride visibly bruised, but his intelligence intact. "You let me tire myself out. You studied my patterns. You waited for an opening." "I did." "You fought smart instead of strong." "That's generally the idea, yeah." He made a sound that might have been laughter if Talaxans laughed. "Your species is terrifying. Wait until you see what we're like when we're actually mad at you," Zara replied, and this time her smile was friendly. Almost. The rest of the session passed in a blur of challenges. Word spread fast in a place like this, and suddenly everyone wanted to test a human rookie. Zara accommodated them. A Vorian heavy trooper who relied on brute strength found himself on his back in under 30 seconds. A Sylph infiltrator who prided herself on speed couldn't keep up with reflexes honed by a childhood spent dodging gravity that pulled harder than most species ever experienced. A Korthian strategist who tried to outthink her discovered that humans had been wargaming since before his species invented the wheel. By the time the training bell rang, Zara had fought 11 opponents and won 11 times. She was exhausted, bruised, and pretty sure she'd pulled something in her shoulder, but she was still standing. That counted for something. Vex found her in the medical bay afterward, nursing a bag of ice against her ribs. He'd brought his entire squad with him, which made Zara tense until she saw they weren't carrying weapons. That was not beginner's luck. Vex said, without preamble, "No, you have done this before. Military family. Dad was a Marine, Mom was Army Rangers. I could throw a punch before I could write my own name." Zara shifted the ice pack, wincing. "You hit hard, by the way." Pretty sure you cracked something. The medics say you will heal. Your species regenerates quickly. He paused, mandibles clicking in thought. I would like to train with you. Learn your methods. Zara raised an eyebrow. Seriously? A warrior who cannot adapt is a dead warrior. You have shown me that I have been complacent, that I have relied on advantages that will not always be present. I would correct this. And if I say no, then I will respect your decision and leave you alone. Vex's eyes met hers, and there was no deception in them, just honest curiosity. But I hope you will not say no. Zara considered it. This could be a trick, could be some elaborate revenge plot. But her instincts, honed by years of reading people who wanted to hurt her, said otherwise. Vex was genuinely impressed, genuinely interested, and genuinely humble enough to admit he'd been beaten. Fine, she said finally, but we start slow. And if you laugh at me even once, I'm out. I will not laugh. Your friends? She nodded at the squad watching from the doorway. They will not laugh either. Vex turned to his companions and barked something in his native language. They all snapped to attention immediately. They understand the consequences of disrespect. Good. Zara stood up, testing her weight on her legs. Everything hurt, but nothing was broken that wouldn't heal. Tomorrow morning, 0500, Auxiliary Gym 3. Bring your pride and leave your ego at the door. I will be there. He left, his squad trailing behind like ducklings. Zara waited until they were gone, then let herself collapse back onto the medical bed with a groan. Her body was screaming at her in 17 different languages, all of them variations on "what were you thinking?" But she was smiling, because for the first time since she'd arrived at this place, she wasn't a joke, wasn't the monkey, wasn't the primitive species that everyone expected to wash out in the first month. She was Zara-chun, and she just made the entire coalition realize that humans were a lot more dangerous than they looked. This was going to be fun. The auxiliary gym at 0500 was supposed to be empty. Zara had specifically chosen this time and location because nobody in their right mind trained before dawn unless they were either insane or human. Apparently, the universe had a sense of humor, because when she arrived, she found 47 cadets waiting for her. Vex stood at the front, looking apologetic in the way that 8-foot-tall killing machines could look apologetic. Word spread. They all wished to learn. Zara stared at the crowd. Talaxans, Vorians, Sylphs, Korthians, even a few species she couldn't name yet, all of them watching her with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism to outright hostility. Great. Fantastic. This was exactly what she needed before breakfast. Anyone here think this is a waste of time? She asked, pitching her voice to Carrie. About half the hands went up. Honest, at least. Good. Doubt keeps you sharp. Anyone here think they can take me? All the hands went up. Even Vex, though his came up slower than the others. Zara grinned. Even better. Let me tell you how this is going to work. I am not your friend. I am not your therapist. I am not here to make you feel good about yourselves. I am here to teach you how to survive when everything goes wrong, when your equipment fails, when your backup doesn't arrive, and when the only thing standing between you and death is the stuff you learned before you needed it. She started pacing, making eye contact with each of them in turn. Human combat doctrine is built on one simple principle. We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. We are not the toughest. But we are the meanest, most stubborn, most vindictive species you will ever meet, and we have spent our entire evolutionary history figuring out how to kill things that should have killed us first. A Vorian in the back row snorted. Big talk from someone who barely survived yesterday. You are absolutely right, Zara agreed, surprising him. I am small. I am weak. By any objective measure, most of you could snap me like a twig. So why am I still standing? Why did Vex yield? Why did 11 opponents lose to someone they could have crushed? Silence. Because fighting is not about size. It is about leverage, timing, understanding anatomy and physics and psychology. It is about knowing that every species has weak points, and that if you hit those weak points hard enough and fast enough, size stops mattering. She stopped in front of the Vorian who had spoken. He was massive, easily twice her mass, with arms like tree trunks. What is your name? Corvus. Corvus, I want you to grab me. Full strength. Show everyone here why I am wasting their time. He hesitated. I did not wish to hurt you. You will not hurt me. Trust me. Now grab me. Corvus reached out, his huge hand closing around Zara's wrist like a vice. She felt the pressure, felt the strength behind it, enough force to crack bone if he squeezed any harder. The crowd leaned forward, waiting to see what happened next. Zara rotated her arm against his thumb, the weakest point of his grip, while simultaneously stepping into his space and driving her other hand into the nerve cluster just above his elbow. Corvus's grip spasmed open involuntarily, and before he could recover, Zara had his arm hyperextended, his weight off balance, and his face heading rapidly toward the mat. She released him before he hit. That is leverage. That is anatomy. That is the difference between knowing how to fight and knowing how to look tough. Questions? Corvus picked himself up, rubbing his elbow and looking thoughtful. Teach me that. I just did. Pay attention. Now, everyone partner up. I do not care about species. I do not care about size. Find someone different from you and figure out how to work together. The next 3 hours were chaos. Beautiful, productive chaos. Zara moved through the gym like a drill sergeant possessed, correcting stances, demonstrating techniques, explaining the biomechanics behind every movement. She showed the Talaxans how to defend against opponents who got inside their reach. She taught the Vorians how to use their strength efficiently instead of wastefully. She demonstrated to the Sylphs that speed without control was just flailing. And through it all, she talked about Earth, about human history, about wars and duels and street fights and every brutal lesson her species had learned on their long climb from caves to starships. My great-grandfather fought in the Third World War, she said while demonstrating a wrist lock on a very confused Corthian. Chemical weapons, biological agents, nuclear strikes. The kind of war where survival was not guaranteed and victory was not clean. He used to say that humans do not fight fair, because fair fights are for people who can afford to lose. We never could afford to lose, so we learned to cheat better than anyone else. Cheating is dishonorable, a Talaxan protested. Honor is for people who survive long enough to care about it, Zara countered. Dead soldiers do not get medals. They get forgotten. I would rather be alive and ashamed than dead and proud. Reverse your grip. Shift your weight. There you go. By hour 4, the skepticism had mostly evaporated. By hour 5, cadets who had never spoken to each other were comparing notes and swapping techniques. By hour 6, when Instructor Valak arrived for his scheduled morning inspection, he found his students too exhausted to stand at attention. He took in the scene with those glowing copper eyes, his expression unreadable. Cadet Chun, my office. Now. The walk to Valak's office felt longer than it should have. Zara kept her face neutral, but internally she was running through every regulation she might have broken. Unauthorized training sessions, potential hazing, ignoring the chain of command, teaching classified human combat techniques to alien cadets. The list was long and deeply problematic. Valak's office was exactly what she expected. Spartan, efficient, decorated with commendations and weapons from a dozen campaigns. He gestured to a chair that had clearly not been designed for human proportions, and Zara perched on the edge like a bird ready to fly. Do you know why I assigned you to fight Vex yesterday? Valak asked without preamble. To teach me humility, to show me my place, to demonstrate that humans are out of their depth in the coalition. Zara kept her voice level. Standard integration protocol for new species. Establish hierarchy. Enforce respect. Make sure the rookies understand they are at the bottom of the food chain. All correct. And do you know what I learned from that exercise? That your assumptions were wrong. Valak made a sound that might have been laughter. That my assumptions were catastrophically wrong. I expected Vex to dominate you in under 10 seconds. I expected you to yield quickly, learn your lesson, and spend the rest of your training trying to catch up. Instead, you humiliated one of our best warriors in front of his peers and started a minor revolution in the training program. He leaned back, his rocky features creasing into something thoughtful. The Galactic Defense Coalition has existed for 3,000 years. In that time, we have integrated 47 species. All of them followed the same pattern. They arrived, they struggled, they adapted, they found their niche. Some became pilots. Some became engineers. Some became strategists. We have a place for everyone, and everyone knows their place. But not humans, Zara guessed. But not humans, Vala confirmed. Your species is different. You are physically unremarkable. Your technology is primitive by our standards. Your history is filled with warfare, so brutal, it makes our conflicts look civilized. By all metrics, you should be relegated to support roles. Supply, logistics, maybe intelligence work, if you prove capable. He stood, moving to the window that overlooked the training grounds. And yet, yesterday I watched you defeat a warrior who has never lost a single combat evaluation. This morning I watched you teach techniques to cadets who have trained their entire lives for war. You are turning everything we thought we knew about combat effectiveness upside down. Is that a problem? Zara asked carefully. That is a revolution, Vala corrected. And revolutions make people nervous. There are instructors in this facility who believe humans are dangerous. Not because you are strong, but because you think differently. Because you refuse to accept limitations that other species consider absolute. Because you have this infuriating habit of looking at impossible situations and asking why not instead of why. He turned to face her, and his eyes were serious. I need to know if you understand what you're doing. You are not just training cadets. You are challenging 3,000 years of military doctrine. You are telling the coalition that they have been doing things wrong, and that a species that just achieved faster than light travel has figured out something they missed. Zara met his gaze without flinching. With respect, sir, I am not trying to challenge anyone. I am just trying to survive. Yesterday I could have been killed in that arena if Vex had decided honor mattered more than regulations. Today I could have refused to teach and spent the rest of my career being the human who got lucky once. But I did not come here to hide. I came here to serve. And if serving means making enemies, if it means other species resent you for threatening their position, then I will deal with that when it happens. But I will not apologize for being good at what I do, and I will not pretend to be less capable than I am just to make other people comfortable. The silence stretched between them. Then Valak nodded slowly. Good, because as of this morning, you are being assigned to advanced combat training, accelerated track. You will be teaching a formal class on human combat methodology twice per week. Your curriculum will be reviewed and likely adopted across the Coalition training program. Congratulations, Cadet Chen. You are now responsible for fundamentally changing how the galaxy fights wars. Zara blinked. Sir, you heard me. Dismissed. She stood, saluted, and made it halfway to the door before her brain caught up with her ears. Wait, I am still a cadet. I have not even graduated basic training yet. How can I teach advanced courses? Because 3 admirals, 12 generals, and the entire Coalition Defense Committee watched recordings of your fights yesterday. They want to know if your methods scale, if they can be taught to other species, if humanity's approach to warfare represents a genuine tactical advantage or just an interesting anomaly. Valak's expression was somewhere between amused and exhausted. You wanted to serve Cadet Chun. Congratulations. You are serving. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Zara taught classes, attended classes, sparred with opponents ranging from curious scientists to veteran soldiers who wanted to test themselves against the human style. She revised training manuals, consulted with xenobiologists about alien anatomy, and spent every spare moment either unconscious in her bunk or awake in the gym. Vex became her unofficial assistant, translating techniques between species and helping demonstrate concepts that required anatomy she did not possess. Corvus appointed himself her bodyguard after Sylph traditionalists tried to ambush her in a corridor. Word spread to the station faster than light, and suddenly everyone had an opinion about the human rookie who thought she could teach the galaxy how to fight. Some cadets loved her. Some hated her. Most were too busy trying to keep up with her training regimen to care either way. On the 15th day, Admiral Krentz summoned her to command. He was a Vorian elder, scarred from centuries of combat, with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. He did not waste time on pleasantries. "Your teaching methods work," he said flatly. "Injury rates are down 30%. Combat effectiveness scores are up 22%. Cadets are adapting faster and retaining information better. You have done in 2 weeks what our best instructors could not do in years." "Thank you, sir. I am not finished. You have also created controversy. 17 formal complaints, 32 informal grievances, 6 species representatives demanding your methods be restricted to human-only units. They say you are corrupting traditional combat doctrines, making soldiers question authority, teaching dangerous techniques to species that do not have human restraint." Zara kept her expression neutral. "And your response, sir?" Kren smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "I told them that war does not care about tradition, that soldiers who cannot adapt are soldiers who die, that if their pride is more important than victory, they are welcome to train separately and see how that works out for them on the battlefield." He leaned forward. "The galaxy is changing, Cadet Chen. New threats emerging, old enemies regrouping. We need warriors who can think, not just fight, who can adapt, not just follow orders. Your species understands this in ways we forgot centuries ago. So keep teaching, keep pushing, keep making people uncomfortable. That is an order." "Yes, sir. And Chen, when you graduate next month, you will be doing so with honors. After that, you will be assigned to the Special Operations Development Program. Your job will be to train elite units in human combat methodology. Some of them will hate you for it. Some will try to break you. All of them will be better soldiers because of you." Zara saluted, her chest tight with something between pride and terror. "I will not let you down, sir." "I know you will not." Dismissed. She left command in a daze, her mind spinning with implications. 18 months ago, she had been a kid from San Diego with more attitude than sense, enlisting because civilian life bored her and the stars called louder than common sense. Now she was reshaping galactic military doctrine and making enemies faster than she could count them. Vex found her on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "You look troubled." "I look realistic," Zara corrected. "This is not going to end well. Too much change too fast. People do not like having their worldviews challenged." "True, but people also do not like losing battles because they were too proud to learn better methods." He settled beside her, his massive frame somehow conveying comfort despite the species difference. "You have given us a gift, Zara Chun, the gift of doubt, the gift of knowing we can always improve. Some will reject that gift, but those who accept it will become something better than they were. That is surprisingly philosophical for a warrior. Warriors who cannot think become corpses. You taught me that." His mandibles clicked in what she had learned was his version of a smile. "Besides, I have a reputation to rebuild. Losing to a human rookie destroyed my credibility. The only way to restore it is to become better than I was. You are helping me do that." "I kicked your pride in the teeth." "Yes, it needed kicking. Pride makes you stupid. I prefer being smart." They stood in comfortable silence, watching distant ships maneuver through the void. Somewhere out there, beyond the Coalition's borders, threats waited. Pirates, rogue states, things worse than either. And when those threats came, the soldiers trained by human methods would be ready. Zara smiled, and this time was genuine. "Hey, Vex." "Yes." "Thanks for not breaking me in half that first day. Thanks for not actually hurting me when you could have. I saw the openings. You pulled your strikes." "Of course I did. You were not my enemy, just my opponent. There is a difference." "Another human lesson?" "Another human lesson." They watched the stars together, 2 soldiers from different worlds, standing on the edge of everything that mattered. And for the first time since arriving at the Coalition, Zara felt like she belonged. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fights, new enemies who thought humans were weak. Let them come. She was ready. They all were. Retry.